to sort of finish up with last week.
We just talked about it randomly, didn't we?
Yeah, so Bernard got in touch and said, forget Anita Punt and try get that Fox Sports News clip of reporter Amy Park reporting outside Amy Park.
Is that a real thing?
It's a real clip. He's found the clip and sent it to us on Twitter. I think I retweeted it during the week. It is very funny, but yeah, search for it. It's Amy Park at
Live from Amy Park. Superb.
That was very funny. Yeah, but Anita Punt, to
clarify,
to fill in the gaps for people who don't watch reruns of Australian netball games whilst they're recording a podcast.
To be fair, it wasn't that we tuned in for. It was that followed a football match, didn't it?
No, it was on after the British netball.
Oh, that was it. Yeah, we had the girls. We had the British girls, didn't we?
But anyway, Australian sports coverage, for those who are familiar with it from Premier Sports and that, or live in Australia, will know that they're obsessed with bringing someone else to talk about the betting odds every time there's a break in play, pretty much. Yeah. But so Anita Punt is a former field hockey player from New Zealand who obviously hosts some of the coverage now on the sports channels, and was brought out to do the betting odds. Yeah. So obviously a name.
Anita Punt.
Anita Punt.
Yeah. There you go. But please do make sure you bet responsibly.
Always.
Yes. Always gamble responsibly.
Willows Road, something you sort of covered off actually, Tom.
Yes.
At Willows Road, Salford fan with a bit of humour, get in touch with them on Twitter. Said, Tom, if you're heading to Manchester, drop in at X-Bulls, Nathan McAvoy's bar in the Northern Quarter at 7 Bro 7 MCR.
Yeah, the Seven Brothers bar. I would have loved to have done it. I did have it on the agenda. The thing with Manchester and the thing with going to big cities for me is that I sort of live big portions of my life around quite semi-rural areas like Lytham and what have you. I don't go to the big cities as much as like you would or your good lady wife would for her work and studying what have you. So I got to Manchester on Friday and I was like proper country mouse in it, like look at all the buildings. And I was honestly, I felt like
you do that. Yeah.
I felt like a soul singer, like getting off the bus in Memphis or something, and like being like looking around and like, you're going to give me $300 for all my songs, and like just kind of wide-eyed and debutante. And there's a couple of buildings I need to ask you about later because you and Emma will know about them architecturally, or at least know what they are. But they sort of blew my tiny mind a little bit. Like there's like one building that looks like it's upside down and that it'll overbalance at any minute because it's kind of it's just a normal rectangular skyscraper to look at it one way. But then you go around the side of it and like, there's half of it isn't there. And
is that the RBS building?
I don't know, mate.
In Spinning Fields?
Maybe. No, I think it's a bit further out of town. But like, it kind of goes up in a block, and then it comes out, and then it goes up in a bigger block like that.
Oh, the Hilton Tower, the really tall one.
Yeah.
Oh right.
How does that not even topple over? I was like, what sorcery is this?
Very clever engineering and cantilevering.
Yeah, phenomenal. And there's another one that's going to be big flats that looks like a big kind of dome, and there was loads of like rims around it, and that was up Northern Quarter, near where we were staying. I've got us right off topic, but thank you for the recommendation, Willows. We
talked about the Seven Brothers Brewery, I think early last year or the year before, didn't we?
Yes,
Nathan
we did.
McAvoy.
Yeah,
set up. I've had a couple of their beers. And they're okay. They're quite nice. Yeah. But I've not been to his bar myself yet. So there you go. We'll have to try that out next time we're in town. Maybe next time there's grand final or something.
That sounds like a good idea.
We did have a rugby league postcard sent in from Alan Walker from the south of France. But he'll have to wait to next week because I think we've got more than enough to cover. So but thanks for that, Alan. We'll drop it in next week's show.
Yes, indeed. Right, well, that's the feedback and shout-outs taken care of. Let's take a look now at news from around the world of rugby league. So, to news then, Mark, and we'll start, well, where else to start, but with all the salary cap changes that we have coming our way. Super League clubs have backed a number of proposals set out by the RFL designed to help attract the best talent to Super League. On Wednesday this week, clubs voted to increase the current salary cap to £1.2 million by 2020, £2.1 million, by 2020, and backed proposals to introduce 3 additional changes to the current rules, all designed specifically to help clubs keep and attract elite talent to the competition. In addition to the proposed salary cap rise, clubs voted to increase the number of marquee players permitted at each Super League club from 1 to 2, and have backed proposals that provide clubs with exemptions from the salary cap when bringing in new or returning players to the sport. The final proposal voted for by Super League clubs would see exemptions to the salary cap for certain players under 21 years of age. Speaking following the meeting, RFL Chief Commercial Officer and Super League Executive Director, that's a hell of a big plate to have on your door, Roger Draper said, "We have had
he has two doors, one at Media City and one at Red Hall."
You would need two doors. We've had a fantastic start to 2017 to the 2017 Betfred Super League season with some incredible action on the field. Attendances and viewing figures are up on last year, and the decision to support the proposals today is another significant positive result for the Super League. The owner of Wigan Warriors, Ian Lenigan, said the meeting today was very positive and was a move in the right direction for the Super League. We need the best players playing in our competition, and when all of the proposals were voted through, I looked at together, the decisions that were made today will provide Super League clubs with the opportunity to do that. The owner of Warrington Wolves, Sam Moran, said, "I think it was a constructive meeting and everyone was very positive as we left at the end. If you want the competition to flourish going forward, it is very important that the best talent is kept in our league, and some of the proposals that were put forward today will help us do that. I thought it was very important that the salary cap did go up, and the opportunity is now there with two marquee players available to clubs to bring and retain some of the best talent in the world." Dr. Marwan Kukash, the owner of the Salford Red Devils, said, "I think it was a fantastic meeting. I think the decisions that were made are good for the sport and good for the competition, and I'm delighted with this outcome. It's crucial that we have the best players playing in this league. We need to provide fans with the best entertainment and talent on the field, and the decisions today gave us the opportunity to do that. However, Wakefield coach Chris Chester told BBC Radio Leeds the changes will make things tougher for his club. I think it's divisive and it will make the gap between the top and the bottom wider. I find it bemusing," he said. "There won't be marquee players at Wakefield Trinity for the foreseeable future. It's something we simply won't be using." So, the full proposals voted for by Super League clubs were as follows. Increase the finite salary cap for Super League. So what that means is that the finite salary cap would rise over the course of the next 3 years from 1.825 million this year 2017 to 1.9 million in 2018, then 2 million in 2019, 2.1 million in 2020. They also voted to increase the number of marquee players, so each Super League club will be entitled to dispensation for 2 marquee players whose salary cap value would be, but for the regulation, £175,000 or more. The regulation would be distinguished between marquee players as followed. Either a club-trained marquee player be deemed to have a salary cap value of £75,000, and 2, all other marquee players be deemed to have a salary cap value of £150,000. New and returning players to the sport then. Each club will be entitled to dispensation for 2 talent pool players and or returning talent pool players. To qualify, a player must be 19 plus on the 31st of August prior to the start of the season. A new talent pool player will continue to have current definition, i.e. broadly a player who has not played rugby league at first team, academy or scholarship level, and the current allowance brackets of that player's salary cap value being reduced 1 to 0 in his first full season and by 50% in his second full season will continue to apply. A returning talent pool player would be a player who has not played rugby league in the preceding 5 years for reasons other than as a result of a disciplinary sanction or criminal conviction. In relation to such players, a club would be given an allowance such that the salary cap value of the player is either reduced by 50% in his first full season and then reduced by 25% in his second full season. Exemption of junior players on the salary cap then. All players outside a club's top 25 paid players who are one age eligible to play at under 21 level in the relevant season, and 2 are paid £20,000 or less will be excluded from the club's salary cap.
Good work, Tom.
Comprehensive, I'm sure you'll agree.
Yeah, we've got loads of people.
Lee Whitnell.
Loads of people giving their view on that, so I'll roll through those, and then we'll have our sort of say as and when it arises. So Lee Whitnell says, I'm chuffed, but as a Wire fan I would be. Just out of interest, could we use any of this sweet new cap space in the Championship? Now we just need a foreign exchange rates to move back to what they were in 2000, and JT will be ours. All ours.
That's funny.
Actually, they can't they, as long as they're generating enough revenue?
Yeah.
There's no...
No, you can.
The cap limit outside of Super League is... But it's not included in this announcement if it'll go up with those levels, but you suspect it will.
Yeah.
And as long as you can support it with the revenues. Tyler Cass.
So you'll be fine, Lee. You'll be fine in the Championship.
Tyler Casfan says, Cap's been held back for years. Players deserve a rise, but don't let's kid ourselves. It's anywhere near the NRL and Rugby Union. Players will still leave. Stephen Antrobus said, I would say it's not that drastic and it's not that much better for any club. They have done it the right way.
Interesting stuff.
Wakey White says, it's high time really. Won't do clubs like Wakey any favours, but need to address the issue of talent drain. Good move by the RFL and clubs. Mark at Wilco2205 says, Cap was due an increase, so I'm happy it's going up, but it won't stop the player drain because the player drain isn't really a thing. Solomona is the go-to name when talking about players leaving Super League in 2016, but Cass seem to be doing alright with their NRL replacement. Dirt Road Cowboy at dirt_RD_Cowboys, and a tough Twitter handle to say. Anything to keep more players defecting to Union is mucho bueno. Alan Walker says Cap had to go up one day, but all Super League clubs should run reserve grades or under 23 grades too. Loans and dual reg are a right mess. The cap can be tiered.
I don't know what he thinks. How that would be tiered.
Yeah, David Lawrenson you'd let someone who runs a academy go spend a certain amount.
Oh, I see.
A man who runs an academy and a reserve team spend a certain amount more, but one who doesn't run either of those
only gets so much.
A certain amount less, because you'd expect them to have less players on the book.
I understand.
I actually think they've addressed that in a little bit of a way, though, to encourage the reserve thing, sort of by extension, with that under 21s players rule.
Yeah.
So that's for your players who get to the age of like the 19s and still haven't secured the status as a top level player yet, or a first grade player yet.
Yeah.
But you're not going to be paying those sorts of people loads, and then they'll stick around for a couple more years, get more experience, and because they're not counted on your salary cap, if you can afford to pay them, you can then play them in reserves. But if you're Leeds, you've got 2 reserve teams in the Championship and the League One, haven't you, instead of your own? So it's different ways of working that. David Lawrenson, on the similar sort of topic, really says cap level should be linked to academy and reserve status. And then Dom Hodgson said, I'd have liked to have seen the salary cap exemption for a reserve team up to 50k to encourage having a reserve team. Found myself agreeing with Dr. Marwan Kukash with the marquee player. Didn't realise they had to take a percentage out of the cap. It sort of makes the whole thing a bit pointless. I think that's reduced, because currently it's £100,000 limit for a club trained player and £175,000 limit for a non-club trained player. So now you're getting actually more, it's 75 and 150 respectively.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's necessarily a problem. I think...
No, I don't. No. I don't see that being a massive...
I don't think it reduces the point of it. I think it's just another... It makes it more difficult for the RFL auditors to keep a track of it, because you have to add a person's salary in, but...
Well, we know how thorough they can be.
It should be fine. Neil McEwen said, I think one marquee player shouldn't count at all on the cap to attract the big names. Every club should defo have a reserve grade team too. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the side issue that's come out of this. Like, a lot of people have said, even in the press and stuff, as well as these listeners all coming back with similar sort of things, that we should have a reserve team being forced upon people, because if they're going to spend to the cap. I think we'll see if now the cap space being higher actually does mean players will recruit more players, or give the existing players a little bit of a pay rise. It'll be interesting to see how that balances off. Dr. Bob Phillips said, widening gaps and losing the reserve grid with my dark cloud increases in skill and more attraction to internationals with the sunshine. So both ways view from Dr. Bob. The Honourable is what at Langers38 is now calling himself. At hashtag now
Honourable Langers38.
Hashtag now then, lads. Hopefully it won't create a wide gap between the haves and the have-nots. Will Wakey, Widnes and possibly Hull KR be able to generate more? I'm guessing he means more income to be able to afford it. Soap opera for men gives it one with a look what Wigan can get done when they need to keep a player. It'll be up to 3 marquee players when Sargentson gets punted from the NRL. Ethan O'Gorman says, to be honest...
That's funny.
Ethan O'Gorman says, to be honest, I'm unsure, but overall I think it's stupid increasing it. And then Brian Davies gets in touch. He sent us an email, Brian did, so it's